Hello, my name is Julie. Welcome to my channel. You're watching Treasures Made from Yarn, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make these fingerless gloves. This is one of my many small shell patterns I have floating around. I have a small shell hat. See, I have a small shell dishcloth, which you can make into a scarf. Let's see, well, I have a Mobius fidget toy that does the small shell, and I have two different kinds of small shell socks. So anyway, we are talking about these fingerless gloves. These particular gloves are made with the small shell stitch that I'm working in the back loop to make this unique pattern, but you don't have to go in the back loop. You can go into both loops. But I will explain that later on in the instructions in the video. And I also do have a written instructions for these gloves, so make sure you check out the description for the written description. And also check out the link that goes to all my knitting and crochet patterns. You can find that in the description too. So without further ado, let's get on to making these fingerless gloves. Alright, to make my fingerless gloves, I'm using the ice cream social yarn, ice cream yarn. It's about a size 3. So I'm using a size G hook. Now if you go up to like a 4 weight yarn, you might want to reduce your hook size to an F, or you can leave it a G, depending on your hand size. Obviously we're going to need a scissors and a needle, and we're using 2 stitch markers. That's to help make the thumb. To get started, we are going to make a chain of 11. Now you might want to leave a tail long enough that if you want to sew, we're going to have the seam that we're going to have to sew up. Alright, so we are chaining 11. Alright, in the second chain from the hook, we're going to do a single crochet and 1 single crochet in the remaining chains for a total of 10 single crochets. We should have a total of 10 single crochets. Yep, we do. Chain 1, and in the back loop only, so you see there's 2 loops, we want single crochet in the back loop only, and then in the back loop of every single crochet across. chain 1 and turn, and repeat the last row you just did until you have a total of 24 rows or 12 of these ridges. So I'm going to do this for 22 more rows for a total of 24 rows, and then I will show you what to do next. Okay, so we have our 24 rows or 12 ridges. So your point is that's this tail. We're going to have to eventually sew this seam up. You can use this tail to sew it, or we can chain 1, putting our right sides together. We can single crochet either the back loop and the foundation chain together to sew up our seam that way. If you were sewing in with the tail, you would want to use, again, like this one, sew in the one back loop and the other side of the foundation chain. Chain 1, but we gotta turn our project right side out. We can probably, another way to get rid of the end is how we can work along the next row. So the next row, we are going to actually start our small shell. So I don't know if you can see, for each ridge, we are going to do 3 single crochets. In the next ridge, or the next ridge in that, we are going to, either that or, for every 2 rows, we are putting in our small shell of 3 single crochets. So we're going to repeat that around till I have 12 little shells in total. Alright, we have finished up 4 rows of our small shells pattern. Now we're going to start the 5th row like before. Actually, we're going to complete a 5th row. So we're going to do one more row. So we've actually completed the 5th row, but now we are going to start the thumb. Actually, for the thumb, we are actually going to work in both loops. So in the actual next single crochet, or the third single crochet of that shell we did. So in the next one, in both loops, we are going to do 2 single crochets. And then with one of our stitch markers, we are going to mark the first single crochet we did in that group. And in the very next stitch, or the first single crochet of our first small shell group, in both loops we are going to do 2 single crochets, and then we're going to put our next stitch marker in the last single crochet we did. So the 4 single crochets, we got a marker in the first one and the last one. And for each round we're going to do increases on where the stitch markers are. Alright, then we're going to proceed again somewhat as normal. So actually start the next round actually in the next single crochet, which is the middle shell of our 3 single crochet group. We are going to do 3, like our small shell, 3 single crochets, and we're going to do that in each shell around. Till we approach our first marker. So yeah, pretty much we are still keeping the 12 single crochets for each round. Okay, so we are at the end of the, we are approaching at, okay, we are at the end of the round, and we are at our first stitch marker. So in that stitch marker, we're going to do 2 single crochets in that first stitch marker, and then put the stitch marker back. The first one, 1 single crochet in the next, working in both loops, the next 2 stitches, or in every stitch until we approach our last stitch marker, and then we put 2 single crochets into that stitch that had the stitch marker, and then we're going to put the stitch marker back in the last single crochet. So you're going to repeat that round until you have a total of 12 single crochets from marker to marker, including the marked ones. You should have 12 single crochets. So we're going to go, right now we have 1, 2, 3, 6. So we're going to do 6 more, we're going to do, actually we do 3 more increases. We're going to do 3 more rounds of increases on each round. That will give us a total of 12 single crochets for our thumb. And then make it before, we shall do 3 single crochets in the middle of each single crochet. And either, depending on what you're doing, I'm doing it in the back loops, or like I said, you can also do this in both loops. So I am going to keep repeating that round until we have 12 single crochets for our thumb, and then I will show you what to do next. Alright, so I have 12 single crochets, well, not in, but to include the marker stitch, the mark stitch, so there's 12 here. So that is 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 to include the mark stitch. So what we're going to do now is proceed the round like before, normal, putting a small shell, which is 3 single crochets, in the middle of the shell below that. Alright, so we are back at the stitch marker. we don't need these stitch markers anymore. So what we're just going to do is we're forming our thumb now, and just go back to the first shell of the round and just do your shell like small shell like before. 3 single crochets at middle of the shell from the previous row, and there we have formed our thumb. We don't need these stitch markers anymore. Suppose I forgot to mention, you could have, if you needed to, mark your first shell to show the beginning of your round, because we're working in continuous rounds. Anyway, I digress. And there you go. We go back to what we were doing before we did the thumb. And you want to get that. I think we work about 5 or 7 more rows. So that is, okay, so this is the row we just did. So I did like 5 more rows. Or you want to get it, you want to keep doing it. So maybe it's about, maybe the length you want that. I mean, this last row is going to be slightly different, but yeah, you want to get this to the point where you want to end it. If you want it slightly longer or slightly shorter. So yeah, so we're doing about another 5 or 6, because we just did this row. This is the row we just did. Okay, so we want to do 1, 2, 3, 5. So I did like 6 more. So about 5 to 7 more rows, depending on how long you want your length. And also, if you're working in both loops, it might stretch out more with it working in the back loop only. If you're working both loops, it might be more compact, just slightly more. So pretty much you're doing more rows until you want about the length you want your fingerless gloves. So yeah, so I'm going to work about another 6 rows. So I think I have, including the one we just did, I think I have 7 total. Or is it 8? Okay, because we did that one. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 7 rows total, to include the one we just did. So yeah, so including, at least for to match up with my glove, I'm going to do another 6 rows before we proceed on to the last row, which will be slightly different. All right, so I'm going to do 6 more rows, or how many rows that you need that you want the length of your glove, and I will be back. Alright, so I'm ready to do the last row, which upon further investigation, the last row is going to be my 7th row. So in my case, after I did the 1 row to form the thumb opening, I did 5 more rows for that 6 total, not 7. But anyway, for the very last row, it's going to be slightly different. Okay, so in the middle of our shell, or we like skip 2 single crochets, and in the middle of our shell before, we're going to do a single crochet, chain 3, then single crochet back in that same stitch. And we're going to like skip 2, or in the middle of our small shell, we're going to do a single crochet, chain 3, and another single crochet in that same stitch. So it's kind of like a different type of small shell. So we just did a single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet in middle of every shell, or we skip 2 single crochets, and in the next one we'll do our single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet. So I'm going to repeat that around, and that's going to finish up at least the hand part of our gloves. Alright, So now that we are done, we're just going to into the next stitch, probably in both loops. We're just going to do a slip. We're going to do a slip stitch in the next stitch. Right, so we use our scissors, cut off our, leaving enough tail to finish it off. Use our needle. I would go to finish it off into like then the next stitch. Go from behind. Oh, don't get caught on that. And then going back to where we did our slip stitch. I don't know if you can see that. We're going into the stitch. And like almost seamless. And then we're going to finish this off. But yeah, after we have this well finished off, we have to go back and finish up our thumb opening. Yeah, we gotta go back to and take care of our thumb opening. Now we already know we have like 12 stitches from the thumb, but we want to put in 14 single crochets around our thumb. That means we'll get our other two. You can either steal the other two from the extra shell, single crochets from this row, or you can put the two, which I think, into the opening. So yeah, we're gonna have like a little bit of opening, so I will leave extra tail to kind of sew. When you finish off, we can try to close up an opening that we're probably gonna have. So I'm gonna put the other tail, try to on the inside. Try to get that tail on the inside of our glove here. Okay, we're trying. Okay, there we are. So we want 14 single crochets evenly around, and we're just going to get our two from, I think I'm going to go somewhere into the side of Dishcloth. I think we're going to skip the stitch and go into our original 12 and do the 12, so we'll have that will make it 13. So that'll be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11. Okay, now we're at 12. Okay, that's we have 13, and we need one more single crochet. So I'll try to put that. We'll put that about right here to the side here, or we can go here. We'll just go. This part of that was part of the other shell, so we'll just put that there. So we have 14 single crochets working in continuous rounds. We're going to just do 2 more rows of single crochet around. Forgot to mention we're working in both loops, so we're going to do 2 more rows of single crochet, 14 single crochet around. All right, I have my 3 rows complete, and we're going to do our final row like the final row for the hand part. So in the next stitch, we're going to do like before the single crochet, chain 3, and a single crochet in the same stitch. We're going to skip 2 stitches, and in the next stitch we are going to single crochet, chain 3, and a single crochet back in the same stitch, and skip 2 single crochets, do a single crochet, chain 3, and a single crochet, skip 2, a single crochet, chain 3, and another back single crochet back in the same stitch. I think we should have a total of 5. 1, 2, 3, so one more, skip 2, single crochets, do a single crochet again, chain 3, and a single crochet. That's it, and we slip stitch back into the next stitch. And we're going to finish this off. We'll finish this off like the other stitch from before, and then you could use that chain, that extra tail from the other end to maybe, if you want to close up this hole a little bit, you can use that to close up this hole. So yeah, I will finish off with the glove and we will reveal what we got. Okay, I forgot to mention that you had decided to not do the single or the slip stitch to join the 2 rows, make sure you can sew up that seam. I also want to make sure that, though I did hide my tail from that, just want to make sure we finish up this last tail. And maybe cover up any little holes that were there from there, but probably didn't. But I just forgot to mention that. Yeah, you could have used, if you didn't slip stitch the seam shut, you could have sewed it with the tail. So, all right, and again, I just showed, I kind of finished off the tail from that to cover up the little gap that was between the thumb and the hand. And there you have your fingerless glove. Make sure you make its mate. I know it goes without saying. You gotta make 2 of these for each hand. So there you have your fingerless gloves. Okay, let's see if I can. Yeah, I can see my mess. Oops. Have it. I just want to have you see all my gloves. There we are. Our fingerless gloves. So I do have, and I had all this extra, I still have quite a bit in this ball. I can't remember if it was like, it's an ice cream or ice cream social, and this was kind of like a size 3, but you could probably do this in a size 4. And I know if my hands are kind of small, if you got smaller hands, you might have to go to a smaller hook or slightly thicker yarn, or if you got bigger hands, you may have to go to either a thicker yarn or a higher hook size. I wouldn't go much higher than, yeah, I think H might be too big, but I think F or G would work out. So, by the way, if you want to make like a set, I do have a small shell hat pattern. So if you want to make the hat, a small shell hat to go with it. And even though I also have it's a small shell dishcloth, but you can keep going and make that into a scarf, so you can almost make a matching scarf and hat to go with these gloves. So that is it for this tutorial. If you like this tutorial, please give it a like. Want to see more content like this, please subscribe to my channel. And I want to thank you always for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye now.